Good day, everyone. It is the Empowered Educator, and I'm back with another video. And the purpose of this message that I'm going to be delivering on today is to empower educators with 7 powerful moves that you can use in your classroom to empower children in trauma to write. Writing across the globe is a high area of need. And I'm going to be telling you all different ways that you can empower your children to be authors in your learning space. Now, some of these ideas you might be able to make a personal connection to because a lot of them are not new, and a lot of them you can confirm actually work within your learning space. Before we dive too deep into this topic, I do want to give a shout out to all of my new subscribers. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in and joining this channel. I pray that everything that is mentioned, every idea that is shared, is something that you can make personal connections to or take with you as a toolkit to utilize in your learning space. So with that, I am going to go ahead and jump on into the mission, vision, and values of Empowered Educator LLC, and then we'll delve right into those 7 strategies. And if you hang on all the way into the end of this video, I'll even give you all a bonus way that you can empower children in your classroom to write. Okay? So with that, I am going to go ahead and jump on into the mission, vision, and values. The mission of Empowered Educator LLC is to empower priority school educators, children, and families through culturally responsive instructional practices that promote marginalized student academic achievement and positive behavior outcomes. The vision is to empower and educate the whole child, as well as their caregivers, teachers, and families through culturally responsive instructional practices and routines. And then finally, our values are to teach a mind, to touch a heart, and to change a life. And we know that through each of these components that we are indeed making a difference in the lives in which we wish to see in this world, okay? So with that, I am going to go ahead and jump on into the 7 most strategic ways you can empower children in trauma to write, all right? And if you all happen to see me looking down or looking over, I'm just making references to a few notes that I have and a text that I am also making some connections to with the topic that we are delving deep in today. All right. So the first way that you can empower children in trauma to write is through a growth mindset. All right. And an idea that I have projected here on the screen is teaching your students that they are authors by nature will empower their identity in this area of content, okay? We naturally are created to be authors in some way, shape, or form when we are born into this world, whether that be through speaking, drawing, writing. There are an abundance of ways that we co-create any stories that we want to tell. When we empower our students to tap deep into their authenticity about themselves, what happens is they feel empowered to write. A lot of students that are in trauma, you'll notice kind of will come with an inferiority complex, meaning that they have a sense of inadequacy or insecurity about their writing. You'll hear students say things like, I can't do it, or this is something I don't know how to do, or, it's too hard. They have a fixed mindset about a challenge or a skill you are encouraging them to try. Understand that this is done, or students come into your learning space with this type of mindset because a lot of students don't hear validation or confirmation from from the lives that they live outside of school. And I'm actually going to mention a quote here from one of the books by Eric Jensen, who is a phenomenal author when it comes to writing about teaching students who have experienced trauma. And the book that I am making reference to today is called Poor Students and Rich Teaching: Seven High Impacted Mindsets for students from poverty. And he has so many other texts. You might have seen in my other videos also make references to the powerful points that this man makes about teaching children in trauma. But what I want to go here with is about building positive attitudes. He says that one way that you can help students have a growth mindset is by reframing to stay positive. When students activate that inferiority complex, again, they feel inadequate. They feel like the skills that they have can't be built on, or that they can't produce the writing or the exercise that you might be challenging them to do. In the text, it says, teach the skills of reframing to stay positive. Students can learn to say to themselves, maybe I am having a bad day, instead of my life stinks. Or I didn't do well on this test, instead of saying I am an idiot. Find a way mentally to refrain from judgment or criticism and instead see another's point of view. Teach students that sometimes the source of the negativity is constant and it's best to spend less time around it. You are going to have students in your learning space that constantly are thinking negative thoughts. Why? Because trauma is something that they deal with on a day to day basis. And with trauma, brings about, worry, frustration, concern, or any other negative types of feelings. So when you're asking students to challenge themselves on a skill that they're not, used to, or something that they're not acquainted with, will bring up negative thoughts about how they feel in relation to what you're asking of them. But when you teach students to have an alternative way of thinking of something they might be having difficulty with, what that does is give that student grace, and it empowers them to try something new, right? A way that I like to empower students is by telling them to try it, or, simply sometimes just walking away and seeing what the student will do to encourage themselves. It kind of goes back to that gospel song. Sometimes you have to encourage yourself. You have to allow students to tap into their abilities and allow them to explore what a growth mindset is. But when teachers equip their students with those capabilities, they find themselves able to do more than what they even thought of. The second strategic moves that you can do to empower children in trauma is by fostering good words of empowerment, okay? And a note on the screen says, positive praise and reinforcement allow students to feel celebrated for achieving milestones in their writing, okay? There are numerous ways that students can feel celebrated in their writing, and I'm sure that this is something that you are already doing in your learning space. But positive praise and reinforcement and recognition by far is one of the most effective ways that you can get students to buy into their power. Okay? One of the most powerful ways that you can encourage empowerment in writing is through one-on-one teacher and student feedback, and then even peer-to-peer feedback. This is a great way where students can also take ownership or drive their learning when it comes to the content area of writing. And when you're doing this, you also want to be very specific about the type of feedback that you are giving to your students. Saying things like, good job, Tony, or you did a good job writing today, Tommy. It just is not explicit enough. And Eric Jensen talks about in this text about different ways that you can affirm student strengths with a connection. So I'm just going to read an excerpt from this text. It says, boost optimism and hope. When students hear you as an authority figure, affirm their effort and connect it to how that strength will do some good in the world, students take more pride in their strengths and work harder. So an example that he has here is saying, Eric, you write really well. Instead of saying that, you can link that compliment with the connection by saying, Eric, when you add practical strategies, I understand better what you are talking about. Plus, that strategy will help you will help with your dream of publishing a book. That compliment just made that student feel empowered, not only in their writing, but even future endeavors that this child might have for themselves. Thus, shaping them into that author that God has already called them to be. So when you affirm students through empowerment and making that connection with them, it allows them to not only view themselves as authors in the making, but there is an end goal that the students can also work towards achieving, possibly something within their future if they take writing even further than what they're doing in the learning space. The third way that you can empower children in trauma to write is through productive struggle. A state of engagement, well, a productive struggle is a state of engagement that enables students to work through increasingly challenging content and new problems without teacher interference. Another way that you can think about this strategy is a let go and release. A lot of the times when we are educating children, especially in areas of content that we know they're going to struggle in, teachers want to be the person or the people that drive how students, learn through this process. The only thing that we need to be doing as educators is encouraging and facilitating how this process is run. But students are in charge of the ideas that they create. They're in charge of the words that they form. They're in charge of the stories that they're going to share with others. And productive struggle is a way that students feel empowered and take ownership of the stories that they create. Students have lots of stories to tell, especially those in trauma. I know that they pull you all off to the side and tell you all about their weekend or a trip that they got to go on or people that they spent time with. Allow opportunities in the classroom through a quick write or even through a reflection for students to talk about something that relates to them. Ooh, that's another idea I should have added. I did not add that idea, but boom, there, I just dropped a gem for you all, okay? You want to know another way to empower students to write? Make the topic about them. This is so powerful because, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent for just a second, but I need to. Because when you make a topic about yourself, it makes you buy into whatever it is you're writing about. Whether it's a personal narrative, you zooming in on one moment in time that was memorable for you, or even just writing about your feelings, right? When you allow students to expand on a topic that's about them, it really empowers them to write. But when you let go and release, what happens is you allow students to grow through those developmental stages in the grade level that they are learning in. It allows students to take ownership in their writing and really delve deep into what they know and what they're able to do. Another thing that students I'll talk about here in just a second, is the idea of resources, okay? But productive struggle is a high need in the classroom. And I think there's a lot of cultural differences with this too, as for what productive struggle looks like. Um, you know, when Black people, one of the things that we do for students to kind of figure things out is to let them try it themselves, not coddling our children through strategies that they need to learn to, get independent. Educators, our job is to let go and release and allow students to take charge of what they know and produce that on paper, and then apply what they've learned and transfer that to other curriculum or other content areas across curriculum. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump on into number 4. Oh, I thought number 4 was resources. It's actually time. But number 4 is time. Okay. This is something I'm sure all educators can complain the most about, right? Because there's just never enough in the day. 24 hours, sunset, sundown, there's never enough time to do the things that we need to do, right? But time allows students opportunities to pace themselves in achieving mastery of content. It's something teachers complain the most for lacking, but can make a critical difference in milestones that are achieved by the learners. There's lots of ways that educators can maximize time within the lessons that they are developing too. When you think about the writing process within itself is already chunked because there's a pre-writing phase, there's a drafting phase, there's a typing phase. There's different phases to this process where students are taking time to really brainstorm their work and then put all those ideas together to make a final piece. There's also other ways that you can chunk ideas that students might be writing about. And there's other parts of a lesson you can encourage writing. There are sections in the beginning of a lesson where students can review something, or they can even make a personal or text to text or text to world connection to. There's also opportunities where you can allow students to self reflect. Self reflection is one of the best ways. You can also, I'm dropping gems, y'all, I'm dropping gems. Self reflection is another a great way to empower students to write. I gave y'all two extra. I hope that you all are enjoying the ideas that I am sharing with you all in this video. I really hope you all are. Hit that thumbs up for me if you are coming into confirmation with the ideas that I am sharing with you. These are things that are research-based. These are ideas that are evidence-based. These are ideas that educators that have produced product, that have produced data about these strategies, that know they are indeed effective. And I know some of you all out there are already utilizing these skills. So what we need to do is continue to empower other people that, hey, I use things like this. Drop down in the comments below other ideas that you use to empower children in trauma to write. Give this video a thumbs up so that we can continue to get this through the YouTube algorithm and share with others. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move now onto the power of resources. Resources are one of my favorite things to equip students with while they are in the writing phase of a lesson or just going through that process that we're unpacking together. Equipping students with hands-on and visual resources that are readily available for access before, during, and after instruction will increase their purpose and engagement with the assignment. It'll also give them an opportunity to interact with other tools that can help them focus or hone in on a skill that they might be working on in their writing. Resources are a great way for students to gain independence in self-correcting and evaluating their work. It got to a point, when I was teaching my class in my school, that students weren't even, coming up to me saying, Miss Hogan, I need help with this, or can you help me spell? The students started to gain independence through the other resources that we had created in the classroom, or other ways, other things that I had in the classroom, such as word walls, reading and writing strategies, things that we would practice in our guided reading groups. And then also the hunk and chunks that we would learn in our spelling words that we would review through framework and the program that Jenny Dowd has created called the Phonics Dance. There are a number of ways that students can have access to resources while they are in this phase or this process of writing. Students should always be able to access something to motivate them to write. When students are writing about their feelings in class and we're utilizing the past curriculum, students like to have their feeling face cards to spell words correctly and to also have a visual of what that feeling looks like, just to provide an example. But resources are an effective way. What might be some resources that you utilize in the classroom to empower students to write? Please link those down in the comments below and share ideas that you know work for you in your learning space, okay? And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on into number 6, okay? Another way that you can empower children in trauma to write is through explicit guided practice. Through teacher modeling and student feedback, this is a motivational strategy to empower your students to write. Guided practice within itself can be done in so many different ways. There are so many instructional methods that you can use to help students along this journey toward to independence, okay? There are shared writing lessons, writing dictated sentences you might be familiar with through Jan Richardson, writing using pictures, thinking aloud, keywords, developing keywords and using a word bank or even a graphic organizer to help students formulate words into logical sentences. Also, echo reading some of those words so students have an idea of where to locate them using those resources, and even co creating anchor charts with your learners. All of these are different ways to have explicit guided practice throughout your instruction inside the classroom. This is what also empowers your children to write, okay? You can also scaffold independence through self evaluating by teaching your learners that process too. One of the things that I like to do when I finish writing a piece, even if it's just a sentence, we'll break this down, we'll scaffold it into chunks where, students can have an idea of how I do this for a word or how I check this, how I evaluate my work for a sentence. But I use a 5-star writing rubric to make sure my conventions are followed. I'll have a capital letter at the beginning of my sentence. I can check that off using my checklist. Um, Finger spaces in between my words, I can check that off. I can go back and reread my sentence to make sure it all makes sense. There's lots of different ways that you can evaluate student writing and to create independence so that they have that guided practice when they feel equipped to do the work that they need to do, okay? And then my seventh way that you can empower students in trauma to write is through author share. This is by far one of the most critical parts of the writing process. This part has the best is saved for last, right? You can't skip over this part. This provides an opportunity for purposeful feedback and empowerment, okay, of children through their writing by providing opportunities for students to share their stories. This is my favorite part of the writing process, where we come together in this intimate space in the classroom, on the carpet, gathered, listening to students share their stories about a topic that we've all had a connection to. This allows students to hear the perspectives of others. It allows students to feel empowered through the ideas that they have created. And then it also gives students an opportunity to hear some critical feedback about glows or grows or strengths or areas for improvement in their writing. So author share is very important. This is also an opportunity where you can even take it a step further by creating more positive climate and culture by inviting parents to this too, which leads into number 8, okay? Showcasing student work to families. This is big. There's nothing that makes students more proud of the work that they do than by sharing it with the families that they, love and they spend the most time with. Seeing their parents light up from the work that their child has been doing is so motivating for me as a teacher. It makes me feel proud along with that family member and that child, because we're reaching goals, we're reaching milestones, and we're tackling that inadequate, mindset that I can't do it by showing that I actually can, right? Producing a product that shows that I am capable. I can do this. I am amazing. I am an author, right? So, those are all, I think I gave you all about 10 different ways that you can empower children in trauma to write in your learning space. All right. I really enjoyed getting this message out to you all. You all need to leave a thumbs up or a comment down below in the comment section about different ways that you empower children of trauma, or confirm some of the ideas that I shared with you all on today. All right. And before I go, I just want to give you all an idea of the other services and programs and products that I also provide in part of my business. As a educator who has a master's degree in teacher leadership, I am fully capable of meeting with teachers and mentoring you, or just being a confidant for you along this journey of educating in any type of school setting, particularly with a student body of children who have experienced trauma or in a trauma informed school. I also have social emotional programs and products that I sell in part of my business called Student Self Care Kits. You all can look for that inside of the description box below. Click on that link tree link down below in the description, and feel free to explore other parts of my business so that we can make contact and we can talk about different ways to serve your needs and those of your learners. All right. And as always, you all know we always have homework to do, and that is to set that goal and to make it happen. You all, I am the Empowered Educator. I'm so grateful to be back in another video, and I thank you all so much for tuning in. You all take care, like, subscribe, and share this content, and I can't wait to see you all in the next. Peace.